All right. So we just went through some arrays, how to declare an array with the square brackets. Each element in the array is separated by a comma. You can have an array can exist of many different data types. An array can also exist within an array, like so. Now let's just talk about array methods. So we're going to get into this a little more later if we have time. Array methods, they're pre-built functions included in JavaScript. So we can actually perform specific actions on these on arrays that have specific actions, or they actually do something very specific. So I'm going to comment that out and just console log a couple of them. So I can grab the length of arrays. So let's just comment that out. So by doing techcos, so I'm grabbing that array, and over here, if I just do length, so if I do dot length, I can grab the length of that array. So if I console log the length of that array, it is 4. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Very cool. I've got, these are very more commonly used ones: pop, push, shift, unshift, index of, splice, and there's a bunch more, but let's look at pop. So if I look at pop and execute it or invoke it, so pop is specifically a built-in method that when invoked by doing this open parentheses and closing parentheses right here, that executes this pop method on techcos array. If I execute it, pop takes off the very end, the very last element of the array. So pop takes off the very last element of the array like that. And if I print techcos again, so pop mutated techcos. So now techcos, the variable, does not have Google in it anymore. Just want to know that there are these built-in methods that that perform specific actions on arrays. Let's do another one real quick. So let first name, I'll say full name. I have an array called Tom, last name called Preet. If I do console log dot full name dot join and execute that, it says Tom Preet with a parentheses like that. Let's do that. There we go. So join will join all the elements in the array into a single string. So I can even do, let's see if this works. If I do type of full name dot join, it's a string now. And now I can even do, hey, when I join all the elements in the array, what do I want to separate them by? And right now I'm separating them by a space. Oh, whoops. So right now there's a space in between Tom and Preet. If I just wanted to have a plus sign, I can do Tom plus Preet, stuff like that. Let's move on to the very last data type, which are objects. Objects are essentially a variable that contains many values through key value pairs. Think of an object like a dictionary. If you open up a dictionary, you can grab the word, and the value of that word is the definition. So in this case, like in this let object, the key would essentially be like the word, and the value would be like description. And you can declare an object by doing curly braces. That's what that call, or curly brackets, or brackets, but they're generally called curly brackets. And so here's let object equals key value. Just know that this is called a key, and then the corresponding element, or the next thing, is the value. So over here, there's an example. It says let employee equals, we've got these curly braces. The name, we have a key called name, and the value is a string called Ruthie Cohen. And then if we have many key values, we separate them by a comma. So for name, Ruthie Cohen. Whoop. So let's jump here. We have objects. Arrays, null, undefined. So we can say let employee equals, now I want to declare an object data type. I can do open and closing curly braces, like so. And if I press enter, this is generally the formatting of it. You press enter. Notice how the curly brace automatically goes to the next line after that. So I can say, name, or just name followed by a colon. I could say Ruthie Cohen. And if I want to add another value, I can say title cashier followed by, what was the other one? Salary equals $50,000. So I can console log the employee object, because this is an object now. So the value of employee is an object with keys name, title, salary, and the values of the name is Ruthie Cohen. The value of title is cashier, and the value of salary is that. So if I execute that, notice how we have the name, Ruthie Cohen, title, cashier. You can also enclose these in strings, like so. It's still a key. It still operates the same, but I just want to let you know that as well. Do I have a question?
Question. So
Yep.
for objects, what determines the key is that the variable is in the brackets, and the following word is always going to be the key, or the one attached to the semicolon.
So what determines that this is explicitly the key?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the semicolon.
Okay.
So it's always key followed by a semicolon and then the value. And a comma, if you're going to add another one, title, colon, cashier, salary. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Now, there's a couple ways, just like with arrays, we can grab the values via the index, like 0, 1, 2, 3. With objects, we can grab the value at that key by doing employee. Let's scroll this up. Employee.
Sorry to be a pain. It looks like someone asked, why is the 5,000 not in quotes?
Because it is a number. Let's see, where's my chat? Oh, there it is. Yep. So yeah, if I wanted this number to be a string, I can include it in quotes, either single or double quotes. But since salary data is generally number, I just want to keep it as a number data type.
Question, Tom.
Yep.
Can keys have multiple objects?
So can a key be, so if I do like home address, I'm just going to do that. Can it be like that?
I'm saying, like, let's say name, just add names to that as values to also. to the key of name. So,
So,
Rudy, comma, James, comma, John.
comma, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand.
So can the keys have multiple values?
So, oh, like an array? Or like this, or like,
Yeah, like that. Like, would that throw up an error? Like if you put John, yeah, whatever.
or like, yeah, John, like that?
Yes, separated by that comma.
Or like separated by a comma like that?
Yeah.
No. So, it's all one line. So it looks right here, name. So let's run this. Oh, shoot. It's probably going to throw an error. So it's right here. It says unexpected string that's in the middle of this object. So no, it pretty much says, all right, here's the key followed by a colon, followed by the value, and then it looks for the first comma. So anything within here has to operate like a normal string or value. You can't have, a number here, or yeah, you can't do
Okay.
anything like that.
So if we wanted that key to have multiple values, it would have to be in an array form.
Correct.
Okay, thank
you. All right. So now, just like I said, in arrays you can access via index. You can access specific values in objects by calling the object employee and doing what is called dot notation. And the dot notation is employee dot followed by the key that you want the value of. So if I wanted the value Ruthie Cohen, or the value of the name, I can do employee dot name. Oh, what happened? I'm missing something. Oh, right here. So Ruthie Cohen, employee dot name. The value is Ruthie Cohen. So employee dot name is Ruthie Cohen. I can also do title and salary, like so. Ruthie Cohen, cashier, 50,000. So this is what is known as dot notation, employee dot key, object dot key to grab that value. There's also what is called bracket notation. Works pretty much the same way. I use it more often than I use dot notation because it's more versatile. So if I want to do employee, just like I do grab the index of arrays, I can do open brackets followed by a string of the key. So employee, open brackets, followed by the key name, or the name of the key, in closing brackets. So again, I can do the same thing with title and salary. And grab it like so. So an object is like one record in a database. Yes and no. I would just say it's the object. It's just a data type. I wouldn't conflate the two with like a records in a database. Now, quite yet, but they do operate like a record in a database. Like these would be the column names, or that column titles, and these would be the value of a single element in the database. All right. Now, just like arrays, we can assign values at specific indexes. We can add keys to an existing object. So if I want to do employee age equals 58, and then console log the entire employee object again it's going to assign the key of age to here and assign the value to 58. So right here, Ruthie Cohen name, title, cashier, salary, age. All right. Does anybody have any questions about objects, data types?
All good, Tom.
Yes. Excuse me, I was asking a question in the comments,
Yep.
but how you use quotation marks for the key?
So up here,
Mm-hmm.
like,
So, and then down there when you use the bracket type, do you have to include the quotation marks? Because I saw you didn't use it for the dot type.
right. So in here I do, and that's why bracket notation, specifically when you're doing object, when you're declaring a new key in an object, you have to use bracket notation. Well, hold on, let me revert back. If you're using bracket notation, you have to encapsulate the key in quotes. But if you wanted to do employee dot like birth date or birth month, you can use dot notation, and in that case, you wouldn't have to use quotes around anything. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then what are you using to add quotations to both sides of your selective word?
So the question was, when do you add quotations?
No, I noticed that you select the word and you use a hotkey to make it to add quotations to it.
Oh, like that?
Yes.
Something
what
like
are you
that?
pressing?
So what all I do is literally highlight that entire word and click the quotations.
Okay.
So it
Thank you.
automatically knows that, hey, like this is JavaScript. More often than not, you're going to want quotations around whatever you just highlighted when you type the quotations thing. All right.
I just wanted to back up to arrays for a minute. And I'm just kind of, I guess, thinking in the future, like you have your 3 tech codes, but then you eliminated one later. Why would you want to do something like that? If you already, you popped it, yeah.
There's like very specific.
Am I thinking too far ahead right now? Or?
Kind of, but there are specific algorithms that you'd want to like essentially eliminate or pop off or append or add values to arrays, whether it's to the front of the array or to the back of the array, or remove from the front, remove from the or pop off from the back. Pop, you can think of, for example, pop is like a queue, right? So a queue or a stack, when you pop off, yeah, essentially like if you're in a line and say you want to, so if you want to pop off the back, so for example, real life, all of a sudden you have
I guess Google doesn't exist anymore or something as a company. You just want to eliminate it? Is that what that kind of?
Yeah, something like that. Or if you're thinking of, say you're in line at Disney World and you go to a line at like one of the roller coasters and you go to the back of the line and they're like, oh no, I got this. Oh, why did it? Crap. Oh, there we go. So you've got a special card that takes you to the front of the line. So you're able to pop off the back of the line. And, you know, if you want to, you can append it to the front of the line, or you can just decide to leave. It's just just random stuff like that. And it does come up in algorithms and problem solving.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right, let's continue. So we've got colon. So those are data types. Now let's get into, so today is just really heavy, just a lot of information is going to be thrown at you. I'm going to try to give you as much information that you can handle in this one tonight, and then the subsequent or the next cohort, or the next sessions, it won't be as lecture heavy. I just want to get all this information out there. So if you have never seen it before, you see it, and it enables you to get started with the challenges. So operators. So operators, there's arithmetic or arithmetic operators and logic operators. So just like in, let's look at operators. So just like in, you can just like in math class, you can add stuff together, you can subtract stuff. You can do that in coding as well, and it's used a lot. You're going to be using math. Well, you're going to be using math a lot, but not like complex stuff. So we have addition, just using the plus sign. So 1 + 1 = 2. Subtraction, 3 - 2 = 1. We have multiplication, which is the star on the 8. So if you shift 8, it should be the star. So 5 × 3 should be 15. We have the exponent, which is the double star. So 3 to the power of 2. And then we have division using the forward slash. And then so like 10 divided by 2 = 5. And then we have this thing called modulus. Modulus is very unique in that it's the percent sign, and it means find the remainder of this value. So 10 divided by 3, what's the remainder of that? And that remainder is 1. So it returns the remainder of it. So if you come over here, let's just do arithmetic operators. We can just console log, 1 + 5, run it, 6. You do subtraction, 3 - 2, 6 and 1. We can do console log 5 × 3, which is 15. We can do 3 to the power of 3 by doing this double exponent or double star. So it's 27. And then we can console log 15 divided by 3 should equal 5. And now we can do the modulus. 10 modulus 3, let's comment these out, should be 1. So you can get the remainder of it. And so what's the remainder of 10 modulus 2? Can anybody tell me? What's the remainder of that?
0.
0.
Great. So a lot of the times you'll use modulus to get, use it for like specific, like, hey, how many times is 100 or is 10, how many times, is 10 divisible by 100? Does it go into it evenly? I don't know. You can figure that out by using the modulus. So if it's 0, that means it does go into it evenly. All right. So we have that. In addition, we can add things together like console log. You can add strings together, Ruthie plus your double quotes, Cohen. And you can add strings together like so. So you can do plus space. So if you want to add a space in the string, so the name actually comes out together, Ruthie plus blank space Cohen. You can add numbers to strings. So I could say like age plus 34. And I can add those together. And it says age 34. But now this value of right here is a string. So it essentially converts this 34 into a string. So it looks like the output is literally like that. That's what that value is now. So if you add numbers to strings, it automatically converts that number into a string. Let's continue. All right, let's do a couple more. You can add variables together. So I can do like let A equals 5, let B equals 22. I can console log A plus B, and it should be 27, like so. If I wanted to add, let's add 1 equals 1. So I declared a new variable add 1. And if I wanted to add 1 to that, I can do console log add 1 equals the current value of add 1. So current value is add 1 is 1 plus 1. And now that value, let's see what it looks like, should be 2. There's a shorthand for this as well. So instead of doing it like that, I can do plus equals, see what this looks like, 1 should be equal to. So what this is saying, hey, take this value, add 1 to it, and then reassign it to add 1 name. So this plus equals say, hey, take add 1 to it, and then reassign it to the add 1 variable. So it's kind of shorthand. Console log add 1. If I do plus plus, yeah, it didn't work. Just want to see if this works. Yeah. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the can't speak right now. Arithmetic operators. How would you tell it to add 50 times in a row? So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 50. In that case, you'd use something called iteration, which we'll get to later. Essentially, you'll need like a for loop, but we'll get to that later. All right. Let's jump into logical operators. So this is when you're comparing two items together. So they'll always return a Boolean value, true or false, whether something is true. So like, does my name equal Tom? That's true. Does my name equal George? That is false. So we have equal, not equal. So hold on. We'll start with equals. We have the double equal sign or the triple equal sign. So does A double equal B? So here we have the example, A equals 4, B equals 2. Does 4 equal 2? That is false. We have the not equal sign, which is the exclamation point followed by the equal sign, or the exclamation point followed by the double equal sign. So does A not equal B? So does 4 not equal B? That's true. We have the greater than by the open, what is that called? The open, I'm drawing a blank right now. open bracket or open, what is that symbol called?
Less than, greater than?
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering what the character sign was.
Exclamation point.
No. So yeah, it's just greater than, less than. Great. If you want to do greater than or equals, it's the greater than followed by the equal sign. If you want to do less than or equal, maybe like the enclosing tick or the triangle followed by equal sign. So we can go over here and do some logical operators. You'll be using these a lot. So let A equals 4. So I'm just going to copy some stuff over. So I'm going to declare some variables. So I've got let A equals 4, let B equals 2, let C equals a string of 2, and let D equals 8. So if I can console log, does A double equals B? What is this going to equal? So does 4 equal 2? That should probably be false. And then now I can do, does B equal C? So look at right here, does B equal C? Thank you, tags.
No, because it's a string.
Let's run it and find out. So it's true. And now let's go back to here. So that's what this double equal signs versus triple equal signs does. So the double equal signs test the value, only the value. So B, does the value of B equal 2? The value of C also equals 2. So only tests by value. Now, if I do console log, does B triple equal C? What is that going to output? So it's going to equal false. So the triple equals, tests the values.
And type.
Values, exactly, and type. So the type of this is a number, but the type of this is a string. So does B triple equals C? It's the same value, but it's a different data type. One's a string, one's a number. So that turns to false. And now we have console log. A does not equal B. So does A not equal B? Is that going to be true or false?
True.
Yep. So it's right there, true. All right. Console log. Let's move this to the top. Whoa. Does A greater than B? Is true. And keep going down. A less than, nope. So false. We can go down. Copy this over. Whoop. So is A greater than or equal to B? That's probably true. Oh, what happened? Or is, yeah, so it's true. And then is B less than, or is A, so is 4 less than or equal to B? So that is not
False.
true. So it's going to return false, and that's what it shows right here. So you've got less than, equal, we just covered that. Now the last two, we have the logical and, or the logic and the logical or operators. So this is when you want to test multiple things at once. So let A equals 4, let B equals 2, let C equals 8. It would say like, is A greater than or equal to B? And so if this is true, and is B less than C, that is true. So we can also do is A greater than C, that is false, and is A greater than B, but that is true. So both of these conditions must be true in order for the output to actually be true. So let's look at the OR.
Days of my electronics trading.
All right, so let's go console log. So is A greater than B, and is A less than D? Is that going to be true? There we go. If true there, then is great, and then A. So is A, so is 4 greater than 2? That's true. And is A, so is 4 greater than D? No, that's false. So the whole entire expression is going to be false. And now we can get into the OR. So only one of these has to be right. Is A greater than B, or is B less than C? It's going to return true. Whoop. So I'm going to copy this over. So is A greater than B, or is A greater than D? So this first one, A is greater than B, that's true. So pretty much the entire thing is going to turn true because it's OR. So is A greater than D? That's false, but it doesn't matter because either or of these has to be true in order to return true. Does anybody have any questions? And that one's false. So is A less than B? Nope, that's false. Is A greater than D? Nope, that's false as well. So both things are false, so it's returning false. All right. Is there an exclusive OR operator, or do you need to build one from the and OR operator? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Brian.
Yeah, well, so what I was asking is there a function that it returns only true if it's either, or if it's only one of the two things that are true? Or would you have to set up, a certain variable where the and is false, but then the or is true, and then combine those two to reach operator? Because like in math, normally or is either or both. I was wondering if there's an operator for it'll return only true if only one of the two values is correct.
Oh, no. Not that that would have to, I don't know. You'd have to build a specific function to do that. So you'd have to create a specific function to handle that logic.
Okay, thanks.
No
Would
problem.
that be just like an else if line, just like the next line in the if statement?
If this is true, yeah, I think so, right? Else. If one is false, then do this one. Yeah, it'd be an if else statement. Well, not necessarily, because if one is true, the other one could be true, but it might not get to it in the if else statement. But we'll get to if else statements coming up. All right, let's talk about functions. So functions. So what are functions? JavaScript functions are reusable blocks of code that perform a specific set of instructions. They're like, think of it's like functions are like an IKEA manual to put together a side table or a cooking recipe. They're a set of instructions for the computer to execute or execute a specific task. So functions output a value, so they need to, there's something outputted from the computer from a function. To declare a new function, we use the function keyword right here, followed by the name of the function, and we're able to pass in parameters into the function if needed. We don't always have to pass in parameters. We don't always have to pass in parameters, but more often than not, functions do have parameters. And functions should return a value. So return is a reserved keyword for functions in JavaScript and in almost all languages. The return keyword is a reserved word, so is function. So a parameter is a named variable passed into a function. So I can pass in anything into a parameter. Like I can pass in an object, I can pass in a number, a string, an array. I can pass in an array in here, and it'll be called parameter 1 throughout the rest of the function. So functions parameters are the names listed in the function's definition. So function arguments are the real values that are passed in. So we'll get into that shortly. So what are functions? We can declare a function just like we declare a variable. We call function name, and we write out the instructions of what this specific function does. So we're declaring a function, but now when we want to actually execute the function, we call the function name and invoke it with the parentheses with any parameters passed in or pass in any arguments. So for example, we have this function called name that takes in 2 parameters, and inside the function, inside of this, we're declaring a variable called answer, and the answer equals parameter 1 plus parameter 2, and then we return the answer. So when we call the function down here, we invoke it by just calling name, and we're passing in 1 as an argument and 2 as an argument. And then, yeah. So let's actually kind of look at what that looks like. So functions. So if I wanted to create a function that multiplies 2 times 3, I can call it function because I need the keyword function. I'm going to call this function, the name of this function is going to be called 2 times 3. This specific function is not going to take in any parameters. So I have it called 2 times 3 followed by an open parentheses and a closing parentheses, followed by a space, and then open brackets and closing brackets. And then I can write any code within this specific code block exists within this function. So this function, in this function, I'm going to declare a variable called let answer equals 2 times 3. And then every function should return a value or should return something. So I'm going to return the answer. So this is literally just a set of instructions right here that just returns the value of 2 times 3, which should be 6. So cool, let's run that. So I ran it, but nothing over here actually outputted because I haven't actually executed this function yet. I need to actually invoke it or execute it. And in order to me to execute this function, I call the function name and I invoke it by actually executing by doing the 2 parentheses. So this is called invoking the function. So now when I execute it, it returns 6. So when it comes down here, I declared it, and then I'm executing it down here, comes in here, let answer equals 2 times 3, and then returns the answer. And the answer is 6. What questions do you have about this specific declaring a function and executing a function?
For the exercise we'll do either today or going forward, do you want us to focus just in declaring variables as let, const, or var?
Use let or const,
Okay.
depending on how you want your variable to work. All right, so that's how you do function declaration and calling a function. But there are 3 different ways you can declare a function. We can do function followed by the name. Right here, this is just how we just did it over here. We can call an anonymous function by declaring a variable name and assigning it to a function without a name. I rarely ever do this. So we can do, yep. And then the new way to declare function, which is called the fat arrow functions. So in ES6, or I'm sorry, in ES5 or ECMAScript 5, which is the organization or the foundation that declares the standards for JavaScript. ES6, so the new version of JavaScript, has these things called fat arrow functions. It's just a new way to declare a function. It has some additional features to it, but we're not going to get into it in this bootcamp session or bootcamp prep course. But essentially, it's the same way. So I can declare 2 times 3 like this. This is the regular way. Let's actually declare a whole different function. Fat arrow function. Or we can say, let multiply equals fat arrow function. And in place of this keyword function that we usually declare functions with, we can, in place of, in place of this keyword, essentially, we do a fat arrow like that. We do an equal sign and then an opening tick. And then followed by curly brackets. And so I want this fat arrow function to take in 2 parameters, num1 and num2, and multiply them together by doing let answer equal num1 times num2, and then return answer. So that's how you do fat arrow functions. You can use either one or, they both work. Fat arrow functions like the new way to do it, but either or work. So now to invoke it, I can do 5, 3. So I'm passing in 5 as an argument to the num1 spot, and I'm passing in 3 to the num2 spot parameter. So I'm taking num1, which is now 5, times 3, assigning it to the answer variable, and then returning the answer variable, which should be 15. All right, let me stop there. What questions do you have about functions? Functions are the building blocks of any language, and this is essentially why, this is what coding is. You'll be writing functions all day, and that's what all the challenges are in.
I have a question in regard to the parameters next to the function name. So when you leave those open and you're not specifically identifying num1, num2, is that, I guess I'm missing the point of that.
Like right here? Oh no, what did I do? What happened? I did something. Hold on, let me get back to it. So where was the function name and it was just open and closing? Like right here?
Yes. So instead of identifying those specific parameters next to 2 times 3 and putting in actual numbers there, is there a reason to leave it blank like that, or what are you doing when you're putting the parameters, I guess?
The reason why I'm not passing in the parameters in here, specifically because I only want this function to do one thing, is that just is to return the value 2 times 3. So I don't want it to be very dynamic. I don't want it to do anything else but return the answer 2 times 3. You'll rarely ever write functions that do this, that don't take in any parameters. I just wanted to show you that you can do it if you just want a very specific function that returns a very specific value. But you are right. Almost every single time you will be writing a function that takes in parameters because you want your functions to be dynamic. And yeah, I don't know if that answered your question or not. What other questions do you have?
In your
For
last
that.
example, you show num1, num2. How do those become italicized, those parameters?
That is literally just this REPL, this specific text editor knows that this is in fact a parameter because it is a function. It just does that automatically.
Okay, thanks.
What other questions do you have? All right, let's see how much we got to go. We're almost done. Yeah, so let's take a 6-minute break. Let me actually